From burnout to burn on, what are the three main cures to the three major causes of burnout? Hi, I'm Kayla Swanson, and I am your host of the Profitable Salon podcast, and I get the ultimate pleasure of having Chris Baran on with me on this podcast. What's up, Chris? How are you?
Well, first of all, I'm fine, Kayla, and it is a pleasure and honor. I know you and I have had many times at High Performance the sessions that we've had to have private conversations on this, and it's always a pleasure to be on here.
Thank you. And I'm stoked to have you formally on here and just get to share those conversations with the audience who's listening in. And so I'm really excited for those of you who are listening to be a part of this conversation, because I think, as Chris and I were talking about it before, it was really resonating with me. And I think this is going to be a conversation that applies to you, your team, your staff, your family, and then just how many of us struggle with burnout. And I think one of the biggest reasons why, one of the biggest things that comes up when we're like, oh man, I feel so burnt out, but we don't understand why. So before we dive into all that, Chris, tell us a little bit, those who don't know who Chris Baran is, tell us a little bit about you and your life and all the fun things you get to do.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that if you're not in my immediate family or around the four people that know me, you probably don't know who I am. However, I say that with my tongue in my cheek. However, what I will tell people is that, I come from this tribe where I've sort of fallen into everything that I've done. I think when it comes to doing hair, that was my, way I started. I fell into it. I didn't want to be a hairdresser. My mom was a hairdresser, so I did it so I couldn't get fired. And so I kind of worked my way through it. I didn't want to be a successful hairdresser because I just wanted to get my money that I got at the end of the week and party. And it wasn't until somebody came in and sat in my chair and said, "Don't cut my hair today because I'm going to Montreal to get a good haircut." And that was what spun me around. That was that was the 2x4 that hit me between the eyes that said, get out or get on with it. And that got me hooked on education. And then the short version is I've been I guess I'm in my, whatever it is now, 55th year in the industry and in the beauty industry. I've sort of worked my way up where it was, I started off behind the chair, then I went to Sassoon's, got I got dived into hair cutting, and that it was in the 60s and early 70s when nobody was really cutting hair architecturally. So I made a name for myself that. L'Oreal approached me. Oh, I guess it was, I'm having to make up numbers here, somewhere around 72, 73. And I became a L'Oreal professional artist for 5 years. Then Redken courted me after that. And so I've been with Redken, I believe, for about 44 years now. Wow. That as in various roles, from artist to global artistic director to ambassador and so on. And that's kind of the long and the short. That's sort of I used to say the Reader's Digest version, but nobody knows what the hell that is.
I do.
That's my cliff notes, of my past.
Yeah, man, that's incredible. That's a long time. Crazy that you're only 30 and you've been in the industry for so long.
Yeah, well, I also started when I was 3.
Nice. I love that. And it's cool because not only in all of those years, but the amount of experience and even the amount of how much the world has changed. You think about 50 years ago to now and just how many generations, how much transformation, back to, before people weren't doing haircuts the same way. You have been a part of the industry for such a wide span of difference from back then to now, and the conversations and experience that you've acquired, which has been really cool. So I'm stoked to dive into burnout. And so I want to kind of set the stage really fast because you said something before we started. I was like, you got to state that is we're talking about burnout. And as you were listening, those of you who were listening to this, I want to lay the playing field of what this conversation is playing to. So is this burnout for stylists, educators? Tell me about what it means to be burnt out.
Well, thanks, Kayla. Let me give you the backstory on why I even started on this. And just to lay this out, I'm not a psychologist. All my research that I've done on this, and the reason why I wanted to talk about that was just talking to hundreds of owners and educators who, when I bring up and I just say that you don't want to burn out your educators, it was that magic touch point that all of a sudden everybody went nodding and saying, yeah, that's it. They're getting burnt out. But just to preface it, so I'm going to talk a bit about that. But remember, everything that we talk about in this is as much a life skill of communication. So it's whether I always say that everybody is an educator. I mean, whether you know it or not, whether you're a stylist behind the chair and you have an associate or an apprentice or fellow stylist that's sitting beside you watching and learning, you're an educator because you've got to, you're using whatever means you have to try to get that message across. The owners themselves often have to jump into the educator role simply because either A, they don't have somebody that's qualified yet. That's the
Right.
operative word.
Nice.
And even in life, if you're a parent, you're teaching, et cetera. So I always talk about that it's important to understand that what burnout is. So I'm going to be talking a bit about it from an educator standpoint, but I want you to take the aspect of it that everybody in life. I mean, there's in some of the articles that I read, they said that 70% of the people that are out there suffer from an imposter syndrome, which is part of the catalyst that leads you to burnout.
Hmm. Crazy, man. That's interesting to think about. Like, when I love when you said like everybody's an educator, because yeah,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're a parent, or you said that earlier of just you educate people in your life, and sometimes in educating it is exhausting, and it can take a lot from you when you're not only understanding something yourself, but then you're trying to articulate it, and then you're trying to articulate it in a way that the person receiving it is articulating it, and then you get in a room of 10 or 20 or 30 or 100, and then
Mm-hmm.
that's just such an expanded way of trying to communicate to a large amount of people. So whether it's one or 100, it's exhausting. And so understanding that burnout coming from being an educator in life, like that makes a lot of sense. I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, and so let's first of all talk about this, and let's leave kind of the educator aspect of it out for just a second, just for everybody, because quite frankly, I'm going to tell you right now, just over I've have my coach that have been helping me get through some things that I needed to get through because, quite frankly, I was going through burnout,
Yeah.
and that's where it's just when you're working 24/7 and you're giving out to everybody and you're constantly creating things, and I was getting burnt out, and it wasn't until and I didn't do that. I didn't go into the research of it because I felt I was burnt out. I didn't even know I was burnt out.
Yeah. You
But
don't
the
know what you don't
reality
know.
is when the more I looked at it, because salon owners were saying that they or people around them are burnt out, I started to look at it and I saw the symptoms and I went, OMG, that's me. That's
Mm,
why my mindset is where it's at right now. That's why that I'm pulling back from other things and right now I don't want to take on other things and being ineffective and so on. So I didn't, not until I did some of this stuff, Kayla, I just went, OMG, this is me
yeah.
that we're talking about here. And that's why it made it so much easier for me to talk to this and to put this stuff down. And quite frankly, it's been quite cathartic for me to be able to look at it and say, well, what do I need to do to get out of this?
Yeah.
And that's what I think is why my purpose behind why I want to talk about this right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's not only like how do you get out of it in the moment. So say whether you're listening to this, no matter how deep you feel you are into burnout or whatever definition you are attaching to your version of burnout, there's getting out of where you're at right now, and then there's setting the practices into place to make sure it doesn't happen again, or that you
Yeah.
can even catch the signs to be able to get out in the future. Super stoked for this conversation. I think I'm going to take a lot away from it as well. So let's dive into it. So tell me, like, what in your definition of burnout, or how in your research, like, let's define burnout and how that looks like, so people can kind of understand and connect with what we're going to be diving into.
Yeah. Well, and again, thank you for that. But I want to just cover, first of all, very quickly, there's two other areas besides
Nice.
burnout.
Good. Yes.
You have burn on, and this is what happens if anybody's an educator. You just got behind the chair. You're your salon owner for the first time, and you're just in there gung ho. I always say you're in there like swimwear, and and so you've got what's called burn on. You go, put me in, coach. I don't care if I have to work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. I want to get this done,
Just fired
and
up.
that's burn on. And that's where your spirit is high. You're evolving professionally and personally. You're loving life and work, your career, and you've got career and personal life balance, etc. You're advancing creatively, etc. You've got a good leadership team that's built around you, etc. And the other thing is you're being challenged as well.
Mm.
And now, so that's burn on. And we've all been there. We know and we love it when we're there. That's when you'll say, "I'll take on the task, put me on, just yes to everything." And the way that I try to think of this is so you can understand what burnout is. It's better to understand sort of a metaphor that we have for burn on. When you're in there, you just want to keep going. It's when the effort that you're putting out balances with the reward that you're getting.
Mm.
So in other words, I'm putting out tons of stuff, but I got my reward. And the reward could be multiple things. It could be finance, etc. It could be the mere fact that you're you love what you're doing and you're moving forward with it. But the reward that you're getting with etc. is balances out with the effort that you have to put in. Okay, so now that's that. And then you've got one other area that you've got. It's and people will recognize this as some stylists, some people that are educators. Uh, it's what you call it's called burn up.
Are you still guessing what your color services are actually costing you? Guessing the cost of your services is eating into your profits. With Salon Scale, you can separate your parts from your labor and charge for every drop of color used. Stop letting your back bar drain your earnings. Click the link in the description to get 10% off of your first year or start your free trial today. Salon Scale. Profit starts with every mix.
And that's where they're relative for a very short period of time. They're a flash in the pan. They're doing one thing really well. I can remember that back in the 70s when there was artists that were out there and they could do one haircut super well, and they were booked everywhere to teach these haircuts, but that's all they could teach. And then once that trend went by, they fizzled out. That's why we call them burn ups. And then burnouts are actually, it's a little bit more interesting. And when I did this, I'm going to actually got to read something here because I'm not good with the names, etc. But so I made sure that we have this name down.
Beautiful.
And came from the National Library of Medicine. And the definition of burnout is a symptom of exhaustion, cynicism, and decreased effectiveness at work. Wow. And I went on to read, and it was a gentleman, a neuroscientist that was Dr. Sahar Yosef, and he was from the UC Berkeley Haas School of Business. And he said, this is what I found was really interesting, that imposter syndrome is closely related with burnout. And we have a podcast that we have as well called Head Cases. And on there, I interview tons and tons of people that are hair heroes, legends, icons in our business. And more often than not, if I ask them if they have imposter syndrome, they say, well, of course I do. And I do as well. I always suffer from that. And the interesting thing is if you understand that imposter syndrome is linked, and that, as I said earlier, the 70% of the people do experience imposterism, that if there's that many people that are out there, it's that much closer to leading to burn out, where you just question everything that you do and you say, what the hell is the point of my work? And I know that, and I'm going to give you another personal experience back in, I'm guessing it was the early 80s, 90s. I can remember being in the salon and I wanted to do cool, kick-ass haircuts, and everybody wanted to do nothing but length and layers. And I got just tired. And then, and I did the same thing. I was burning me out on everything that I taught with education. And I finally said, well, if that's what you want, then I'm just going to do what you want, not suggest anything. And I came close to burning out and just about stepping out of the industry because I hated what I was doing. Yeah. And it wasn't until one day I said, look, I don't care what it is. I don't care about the position. I don't care about if somebody hires me or not. I don't care about retaining people, etc. As long I just want to be able to do what I love doing. And it was just like that. My mind shifted, and it was a big turnaround point for me. So most people think that that burnout, etc., comes from exhaustion or you just need rest. And you may need a little bit of that, but it's a mind shift that you really need to do, or help from people that are around you that can help you do it.
Wow. And that really connects with me. I love what you just said about, we talk a lot on the podcast. I mean, if you've been hanging around any episodes, you know that we talk a lot about, sometimes it is just a mindset shift. Mm-hmm. And that is such a powerful thing to think about. It's like, we think like, because I mean, how many of you listening have you have a whole day off, you don't leave your bed, you relax all day, or you go on a vacation and you come back and you're just as exhausted 2 days in from coming back than you were when you left. You're like, well, what was that vacation for? I'm still just as tired. And so what you just said, Chris, about it's the mindset of where you're at. What are you allowing yourself to put up up with when you come to work every day, because you're
Hmm.
settling for something that is less than what you want to be doing with your life. You have aspirations and goals and desires and dreams, and somewhere along the lines you settled for, well, this is good enough because it's paying my bills,
Yeah.
rather than settling into something that you're passionate about and excited about, a reason to come to work and have your own, like, your heart bought into what you're doing. So then it's that motivation behind it, which I think is so powerful, what you just said.
Yeah. It's just, and that can happen to any one of us. It doesn't select people. It's how we allow our work environment, or what we don't communicate, will affect of what our results are. And back to that example that we said about the scale and having what effort you're putting in, and if the reward matches, you're okay. But when the effort takes much more, so like whether you're in the salon or you're an owner, because I've been in all of those positions where I'm putting in all this time, I've got all this energy that I'm pouring in, and I'm planning all the time. I'm trying to get my vision ready, or I'm an educator that's trying to prepare the night before for a lesson that I've got to give tomorrow, or I have problems on how do I coach effectively, and said, am I doing the right coaching, or am I losing revenue? All of those things that are efforts that will stand in the way. That if you're not getting those, because you got to spin those around. What's the opposite side? Is like if you're not getting, if the validation isn't there, or the if you don't feel like you're giving back properly, the gratitude, or you're not getting respect and trust, you don't have I learned this from one of my coaches, is that, and he might be in your office as well, is he said that if people don't see where there's a future for them, they'll start running the other way. So that people have, one of the rewards that people will do and work for is if they know there's a place for them in the future where they can grow and advance.
Opening a new salon or remodeling? Feeling overwhelmed? We've got you. At Collins, we custom build salon equipment made just for you in Tennessee, with local reps and designers to guide you from layout to delivery. Explore at collins.co/HPSA.
Absolutely. And I think that's very connecting and applicable to so many people that I've met too, and even in my own self, of like, yeah, if I don't feel like I'm growing here, I have some place to be, then what's the point in the first
Yeah.
place? I'm like, because nobody wants to feel like they're going to be in the same space forever, or like, especially, you don't want to work to live. And
Yeah.
you want to work to live, not live to work. And so you want to go and you want to have passions, you want to make money and do what you love to fulfill on getting to enjoy your life too, and getting to be successful in terms of how you see yourself, your income. And so if you're seeing all these people are like, oh, well, how are they being successful? And
Yeah.
going back to that mindset shift of like, yeah, if you don't see yourself growing or see any potential in there, or don't have that support, you're out of exchange in what you're getting back for what you're putting in, then yeah, you're going to feel burnt out, because
Yeah.
it's that mental exhaustion of like, it's insanity. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results,
Mhm.
and you're stuck in a spiral of insanity, trying to get somewhere, but you're not connected to where your heart wants to be. What a beautiful thing. That's like a huge aha for me. So thanks for sharing all of that. So then in that, if now that we've identified burnout and identified, all of those concepts, like how do then people start to crawl out of that?
Well, I guess part of it is, and again, I'm going to reiterate this. I'm not a psychologist. I don't have a degree in any of this. Everything that I put together with this was based around things that I saw that was happening to stylists that were educators,
Yeah.
to owners that were talking to me about what the sort of the symptoms that they saw.
Yeah.
And then I did some research and then kind of fit the words that they were used, which are very technically jargoned words. And I just went, what are the key, grade 4, because that's about my speaking level. What's the grade 4 or fourth grade? I say you say here in the U.S. that level of what we can talk about. So I say that there's 3 things that I see, and this will, believe me, I'm talking about education, but this is on anybody's standpoint, whether you're a stylist behind the chair, an owner, or whatever. Is number 1. I'm going to give you the 3 first. So if you want to write these down, you can please write them down. Number 1 is you're stagnated. Number 2 is you're unmotivated. Number 3 is self-doubt. So I'm going to take it back and go back and visit the stagnation first. And I'm going to talk about kind of 2 areas that you can see. One, what are the things that can cause it? And again, my words, etc., not anything else other than what I've seen and I know what I've experienced. And then I want to talk about what's the cure. what, and the cure might not be, doesn't mean it's like taking an aspirin. It would mean over a long haul, what would we do this? And some of these cures are going to fit together. So just wait for them as they stand up. So if the number one is stagnate, what does stagnated mean? Well, generally that means you're bored with what you're doing. And it could be bored personally in what you're doing. You're not advancing personally. It could be the content. Somebody, if I've, you're in charge of an associate and an assistant, and you say, if I have to teach one more darn um, blowout that I'm doing on long hair, I'm going to scream. So it's just that they don't have the content. They're doing the content over and over and over, and there's no diversity in what they're doing. And often there's the boredom that you experience, the stagnation. The quick cure for that is training. So what can you do as the owner to help to train that person, or what can you seek out for training on your own so that you can have some variation of it? And generally the causes can be that often that they feel that there's a lack of support. Either I'm not generating it on my own. I might not be getting, I don't feel like I've got a mentor that's helping. I don't have anybody that's giving me feedback, and I'm not getting any more training. So I advance. You see it? So that's kind of the things that can generate them. The way that, if like as an owner, as a teammate, as whatever, and if you have to give anybody advice on it, it to me would be the things. What do you do to help cure it? Is what's the support you need? Get them to write down the support, whether it's technical, because this is generally from this point, is it's going to be as an educator, it's probably going to be from a technical aspect, meaning I don't know how to do this technique. And it might be facilitation. I don't know how to facilitate it. And I will tell you this, if you're a stylist and listening to this as well, you say, well, that doesn't apply to me. But yes, it does. Because it still might be, I'm bored with doing the same old haircut, the same old technique, the length and layers, my retailing is I use the same spiel all the time and I'm getting minimal results with it. Is what are you doing to get either technical training on how to do it, or facilitation on that is a life skill. So what are you doing in order to be able to help somebody sell, right? So that's stagnated. That's the first one.
Ready to transform your business and improve your salon's profitability? With Lonza's 3-in-1 technology and intermixable shades, your hair color inventory is streamlined with limitless creativity behind the chair. Click the link below to unveil the secret to salon success.
The second one is that they're unmotivated. They might just have this feeling of overwhelm. And I know that, and I believe it was just either last week or so, you guys did a point on, you did a seminar on overwhelm. I have it on my thing and I still want to watch it because I've got it queued up. Yes. But the point is that the way that you cure it is with motivation. So generally, why are you unmotivated? Well, generally it's probably because you're feeling unappreciated. And again, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is that, generally one of them is esteem. For the effort that I put in, the reward that I want is to be appreciated for what I do. I want, it's not about that it's stroking ego. There's motivation is either fear, if you don't do this again, you're fired, very short-lived and generally very ineffective. I'll pay you more. Well, that can only work to a certain degree. But we know simple thank yous, acknowledgement among the team, all of those things that we have that help to build our validation in what we're doing. Because if you can be doing a great job, but if nobody tells you you're doing a great job, then you just merely pass it by, and that's one of the starts that take you to well, am I worthy? Am I doing things right? Keys right into imposter syndrome. So what's the communication style between the leadership team and the person that's doing it? I mean, your educator may be on the leadership team, they may not. You might have somebody that's an educator, and I tell people all the time, you shouldn't have just one educator, because number one, that's time, energy, that can lead to burnout. Number two is, what if that person leaves? So you have to have a cycle of people that you're training through these positions. So, and then so you've got stagnated, number one, they're generally bored and they need training. And then the second one is they're unmotivated, they're overwhelmed, and the way you help them is to motivate them. How do you get them? How do you give them what they need so that they do feel appreciated? And, if they're not being challenged, then what are we doing to help to challenge them? I love what you're doing. Here's what I'd love to see you do. How are we supporting them with positive feedback as opposed to just everything is critical and negative?
Yeah.
And then the third point was self-doubt. And generally that's where people become discouraged. And the point that you need to give them is a plan. So the cause, and here's what I said it before, but here's some of the causes that you're seeing. So if you're an owner, if you're a teammate, excuse me, if you're an owner or if you're a teammate, then you start to see that person that was normally cheerful all the time, put me in, coach, I'm happy, I want to be there. And now you notice that they're negative all the time. They might not be planning for the programs. They're very cynical about anything that's suggested. There's generally a mistrust that's happening about them. That's just a sure signs that imposter syndrome is setting in. So how do you help? How do you get that? Well, if you're the owner, if you're on the leadership team, regardless if it's an educator, if it's a stylist, if it's one of your front desk people, whomever, a friend, then just to be proactive, have a conversation. Here's how I noticed that you've become lately, and I'm concerned, and I see how I think this is the way that you're feeling. And, we found that if we can talk about it, we have a piece of communication and set up one-on-one communications that you see them, and ideally way before they go down a deep, dark path. But that's where I really believe is that one-on-one communication, it really needs to happen so that you help to get people out of that negativity, et cetera, and set a plan for them. What is the plan? Well, what is it you need? Do I need more facilitation? Do I need more training? Do I need more time off? Do I need somebody to help me? That's the way that I know from our side. We have people, we have a very small team, and I'm always worried when somebody says, I've got so much on my plate. I've got so much on my plate. And that's where you have to be able to go in and say, how can we help you? What else do you need? Even if it costs you money, I would sooner spend money on getting some more support for that person than I would do to lose that person.
Wow. Man, thank you for explaining all that. That hopefully if you're listening to this, that hit you as well. I love when I get so soaked into relating very big to that,
Yeah.
and seeing those symptoms and signs in my life and in people in my life. I have a team too, and getting to see oh man, when people, being able to identify those signs and then knowing that there is something you can do about it. And it's also just being more proactive and being instead of hounding on them, just do it. And thinking, again, taking a step back. We talk about that a lot, of taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture of seeing the signs and seeing what's going on and realizing that you can have solutions and come alongside them and support them. Because as people are learning and growing, now, if you're the owner listening to this podcast and you're hearing this information, you're like, oh, that's so true. But it's not necessarily common sense that people even know why they're burnt out. Yeah. They just are, or they're struggling. And then I love what you said earlier of then they just start digging themselves in more and more and not even realizing why, or treating what they think is wrong. And it's not actually, or numbing out. There's, we can go into all that too, and then they end up in a worse spiral, harder to get out of, rather than having an owner, having a leader, having somebody who's on their side, looking for those symptoms, and then in those three ways, supporting and be okay, what's going on? Hey, can I help you understand this? Can I help you figure out that plan to be able to support them out of it? Which I think is such a powerful thing, because in return, your salon will grow, your team will grow, everything will start to thrive when you can take that intentional time to have those one-on-ones with your team, understand where they're coming from, coming alongside them and supporting that and making that priority in your life, which I think is really, really powerful. Chris, that's amazing.
Yeah. And here's one thing, and I'm going to be very candid here. And this was something that my coach helped me realize because I was going through burnout. I didn't even identify it burnout. I identified it as something totally different. It's not important what it was. But some people are going to need a point where they need clearing. And clearing is just nothing more than having somebody that knows how to clear. Clear just means, how do you get somebody to talk about, to get down to the deeper meaning of why you're in the mental state, the mindset space you're at. And my coach went through it with me and saying, because I could say, I need rest. I need some time off. I need to take a holiday. And, at one time, I was working 7 days a week. and working anywhere from, 8 to 12, 13-hour days. But I was happy with it. It didn't bother me. See, I wasn't burn on. But something happened and it was burn. I get burnt out. Now I'm just tired. I identified that it must be the fact that I need rest. And that's what I thought it was. But my coach helped to clear it with me. And the clearing is just means they'll go through a process with you. I don't feel I'm qualified to do it, but my coach was. And he said, when's the first times that you started feeling this? And you had to go back and find, where is this crap coming from? And he helped me with that. And then I found that I had this inherent nature from one little experience that happened in my life when I was about 8 or 9 years old, that I have this inherent need to I'll do whatever it costs me so that other people don't have pain.
Hmm.
And so, while that's much more complex, it just comes down to simple straight talk. How do you have some straight talk with somebody? And if you're not qualified to clear, you could do more damage than you do good. But that's what I would suggest if they can't. If I had somebody that in my employ that was there, I'd say, look, let's set up. I'm going to set you up with somebody that I know that can help to talk to you about this and get things out so that you can just clarify what it was. And the moment you talk about it, you go, oh, well, that's what it was. And then, and now I'm back to burn on. It was like a switch that came on, just like that.
Are you ready to increase your retention and revenue and convert website traffic to clients? Then you're ready for Maya. Maya creates better business relationships by pairing the right clients with the right beauty professionals. Use promo code HPSA for your first 2 months free. Visit joinmaya.com to get started.
Well, it's interesting how when you do identify where something's coming from, just understanding the why. Why is this happening? Where is it coming from? And it's not that surface level that you think that it is. And it's like realizing that it's a deep rooted thing. You almost can have more grace for yourself. You're like, oh man, I've attached this meaning since I was 8 years old that this is how I was going to operate. And that was in order to survive that moment. And so then you're fast forwarding and you've been operating like that for so long. Yep. And then you almost can't stop. You can't get off that wheel. And so I think every single human being has their own version of that story, where at some point in your past or in any time or multiple times, you attach to a way of being that is absolutely exhausting and it's running you into the ground and you're just not aware of it.
Yeah.
And so
it's all subconscious. It's all what it is.
You don't know.
Yeah, you don't want that feeling that you had then. And so you do everything in life that you wanted to correct it. And to some people, this might be woo-woo. It's really not, because I'm not a woo-woo kind of person, but it was when I went through it and saw the clarity that I got out of it, it really did help. And so I always believe that if you've got something you're stuck on and there's nobody around you that you can get some help, just seek out somebody that they can help you with and ask you the questions they need to ask so that you get to the other side. Because here's the reality is that, and I'm going to tie that kind of back into wherever you are as a stylist or whatever. And it's always about, if you can ask yourself these two things, am I willing or am I unwilling? And do I have the skill or do I not have the skill? And from an owner's perspective or a leadership's perspective or a teammate looking at another person and you're saying, okay, I was motivated, I was willing, I've got all the skill in the world and I'm doing everything I love to do. And they're put me in coach, I'll take that on, I'll help, I'll do whatever. And then all of a sudden you see that same skilled person going back and they're pulled back, they're disassociating themselves with it. That's telling you that their skill is still there, but they're not willing. So you got to find out, why are they not willing anymore? And the moment that you can identify it, well, it might be as simple as, well, I'm not being appreciated. I did this something and I didn't get remunerated for it. And I did that at one time, but I can't do it. I'm missing out on money. It might be that, look, I did this thing, you reacted in this way, so it upset me. And you see, and then all of a sudden we start making these stories in our brain that it wasn't intentional on the other person's part. And it might have been, it might not. But the moment that you can just have some straight talk between those two people or that team or whatever, it can start to straighten out. How many times have we said, well, that wasn't my intent? And then you tell them what your intention was. They go, oh, well, I took that different. And all of a sudden you can see when the emotion goes from up here and I'm anxious about it and they explain it, and I'm like, oh, you can hear the relief that happens in them. And just how simple straight talk. And I think that's the hardest part about being in the salon anymore. We're always uplifting to everybody else, but we're an emotional group. And while I don't always believe in that, I have so many friends that are Harvard grads, and they said, "Oh yeah, well, all you hairdressers are so emotional." And I said, "Look, I've worked in corporations, and they're just as emotional as we are." But the point is if you can always identify what was the intent behind the way something was said, it can offset just this further spiral that goes down and take somebody from motivated to unmotivated and unwilling, and then possibly even where they're a cancer within, and when they couldn't have been, with one simple step. And if they could become a cancer, then the only thing is out. Find someplace else or happy.
Absolutely. Man, what a powerful thing. Chris, I feel like I could listen to you talk about this for a long time. And as we kind of wrap up this, Chris, what can be, as people are listening, what can be one thing that you would give them to walk away from this and a point of action to take with them as they close down this episode?
Well, this is going to sound really odd because I hear so many people say it. Just get a mentor. Oftentimes with this, just if you got a mentor, somebody you can just talk to, oftentimes they'll help to straighten out your head with this as well. But it's just also, if you got a mentor, those are the people that will help to guide you. They're going to tell you what to do, but they'll generally ask you questions so you can know what is it that you want and where can you get it from, because generally those people have gone through everything that you're going through presently. And a mentor and a coach can always do it. And I've always said this. Now, you can get some mentors that will help you along. I pay for my mentors because of my teachers, and my coaches have become my mentors and my personal friends. But I always say, just get a mentor. It'll help you get through life faster. It'll help to answer your questions quicker, and you'll help you get to the success side much quicker than you ever will be able to figure it out on your own.
Man, I agree with that completely. If you're not growing, then if you, especially as an educator, you are educating so many other people, but if you have nobody filling into your cup and being there for you to be the educator into your life, it gets exhausting. And again, like we've just been talking about, it will bring that burnout and you'll feel like, what am I doing this in the first place? So find somebody, and it's not just necessarily your best friend or somebody who's not even in your industry. Find somebody who you align with, who can actually be honest with you, can love punch you, can ask you those questions, and not trying to instill their thoughts into what your life is, but actually help you identify your own. Thank you so much, Chris, for hanging out with me today. I can't wait to have you back on the podcast. All right, we'll see you next time on the Profitable Salon Owner Podcast. Bye, guys.
You've been listening to the Profitable Salon Owner Podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave us a review, and check us out at profitablesalon.com for more episodes, content, and to help you turn your salon into the business you've always dreamt of.